Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
All right, great to be with you. They're voting on Beaver Stadium this morning about whether to allocate the additional $630 million on top of the $70 they've already put in.
And $600 million of that is for your office, correct?
No, I don't think so.
Shame. That's a shame.
So this is what it's going to provide. There'll be 15% more restrooms. Mm-hmm. And obviously the ones that are currently there, will be renovated. Next, 24 new elevators, 12 new escalators.
Ooh.
4 plus stair towers.
Okay.
Again, egress is important here. Mm-hmm. 100 new point of sale stations. That's a 70% increase.
And especially with the new addition of being able to sell alcohol in the stadium, right. That is going to probably, I'm guessing, be a lot of them because they can keep the food ones the same and then just add the alcohol ones separately.
Maybe you can also add more food options too.
Yeah.
100, new suites, addition of loge seating boxes.
Okay.
And the addition of a broadcast level and added press box capacity.
So what you're saying is you get leg room.
Look, the size of our booth is fine. There's no issue. It's always the location of it. You know, keep the location in the same neighborhood.
The booth is beautiful. I mean, you guys have a great view. You're perfectly set up.
So I have no complaints about. Once they took care of, like, they did put the $2 million in and took out a lot of the asbestos that was above. No, I'm not joking.
No,
above the false ceiling. Right, I felt better about it.
Yeah.
Pat Kraft said today to the Board of Trustees, it's time for Penn State to catch up to its peers. It should be a model for the college and NFL world with innovation, experiences that are different and exciting in technology. To put it simply, renovations to Beaver Stadium are long overdue, which is a fact. It's time to act, and it's time to act now.
Yeah.
So now the debate is going to be, which I'm sure is going on, about the number
of seats they get to, or the price.
The price. In other words, can Penn State afford the $700 million? And the and what. That's the whole point is the $700 million part.
A lot of money.
It's not that Beaver Stadium needs renovation and work. That's not the issue.
Yeah.
It is to the extent as to what some people feel you can afford. Now, there's already $70 million, and work has started with the 70. So this is on the additional $630 million. It's amazing how that sounds a little bit smaller than 700.
It's still a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
It's what, Jerry's whole salary, I believe? Look at me making the jokes today, not even you.
All I know is that Jerry had a staff meeting. When it was done, a whole bunch of people signed up for California Psychics. No. Really?
Heard better.
Oh, no, that was actually a good one. I was like, really? So that's what it comes down to. I have no problem at all, zero, with people asking questions. None. Hey,
we should be asking questions.
Okay, on anything. You can ask questions. You can have, and by the way, you know, it's a majority vote. If you vote no on it, it's because you're voting your conscience on it, on the money part. That's fine. I have no problem with that at all.
Yeah.
Zero. Does Beaver Stadium need it? Yeah. Does it have a chance to make the fan experience better? Yes. More bathrooms.
Always a good thing.
More selling stations, elevators, escalators. Well, okay, that has nothing to do with football.
I do have a question for you real fast before we get to the serious stuff. Do you think James Franklin's going to do a Steve Ballmer and use every single toilet in the new Beaver Stadium?
No. No,
Sad.
no, you will not.
Oh, Steve.
Now, is that what he's doing with the new place?
Ballmer has said he wants to make sure every toilet in Intuit Dome works before the stadium officially opens. And there are I think it's one toilet for every 5 fans, I think is what is mathed out to be, or something absurd.
Okay.
So it's a lot of seats for him to sit in.
Well, I think what you want to avoid, we're going to talk about restrooms now, which is perfectly fine, all right, because it's part of this.
Yeah.
What you want to avoid is the long line that's just standing there and people standing in line saying, okay, how much time do I have to do this?
Yeah.
All
and
right.
if you're standing in line, you're not buying anything and you're not watching the product.
Right. You're not watching the product. You're not, or you're not buying something, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
And, for example, I went to a Pirates game last month when they played the Red Sox. They didn't destroy the Pirates. I mean, what? With a lineup from Worcester.
Yeah.
Okay. Not good. But, okay, line to get food. What I bought, what did I get? Chicken Pete's.
Yeah.
Okay. Could not have been better or more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
I checked off high marks on that. Restroom, no problem. I was in and out in whatever. That's what you're looking for experience-wise.
Yeah.
Experience-wise, you're looking to have the least amount of inconvenience for your fans.
Mm-hmm.
The least amount of inconvenience. You want to make sure when they walk out of there, and the part you can't control is the winning and the losing.
Mm-hmm.
You can't control the winning and the losing part. But you want them to walk out of there saying, actually, overall, it's a pretty good experience.
I had a fun time today.
Right? I mean, instead of walking out there going, oh, man, the line in the bathroom extended, I was in line for 25 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was at the concession stand. Oh, man, I was there for 20 minutes waiting to get a burger. I mean, you don't want that, okay? Oh, God, it took me forever to get to my seats.
Yes.
Right? Those are all things that you want to eliminate as many complaints as possible.
And I have a story for you real fast on that.
Sure.
So I, of course, am a Yankees fan. I grew up a Yankees fan, and my family, my second Yankees game I went to was back in 2008, the old Yankee Stadium, the house that Ruth built.
Sure.
And we were there for a game, and I remember while we were there, we all wanted to get ice cream. And we'd all talked about, we need to get ice cream at this game. It's kind of how it works. It's a rite of passage of going to a baseball game. You get yourself a dog, you get yourself some fries, you get yourself a cone ice cream or one of the baseball hat ice creams. And I wanted the baseball hat ice cream. The only issue is the only ice cream place in the old Yankee Stadium, for those who ever went there, is it was down all the way towards the left field foul pole. It was all the way in the corner, and there was only one of it. And of course, it's Yankee Stadium, and you can imagine how crazy that's going to be.
Right.
So my dad went in the top of the second inning to get us ice cream. We all got to the game early, got our food, sat down. I'm 8 years old at this point. We get our food. My dad's like, okay, I'm going to go in the second inning to get the ice cream. I'll be back in the fourth.
Yep.
My dad got back after the seventh inning stretch.
You can't have that.
We can't have that happen.
It's okay, because my dad brought my brother to a Yankees game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is when we were kids. Yeah. So he took me to a Red Sox game. Then he took my brother to the Yankees game. Gets up in line, goes to the concession stand.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he was the next guy up, right? And they went on strike. They closed it. They were on strike. They had a money dispute.
Oh, God.
It was a doubleheader. I guess during the time between when my dad was there in the sixth inning and the start of the second game, they resolved whatever the issue was, and they reopened
Oy
it. But
vey.
they went on strike.
We're also not going to discuss the price of Yankee Stadium. That's a different discussion for a different day. But the point...
the new one?
In general, the price is...
The new one?
The best deal in the world is going to Yankee Stadium and getting tenders and fries. That $22 price is unbeatable. The issue is everything else costs $22 as well.
Yeah, the new one, look... It's a $1.5 billion stadium.
Yeah.
All right. And I did the Pinstripe Bowl there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing about in my job, I am allowed to go
everywhere.
Pretty much everywhere. Especially because we practiced on Friday before the game. And the game is on a Saturday.
Yeah.
So while Penn State's practicing, I walked around, right, underneath different areas, monuments, I went everywhere. And somebody said, "What do you think of it?" I said, it's all right.
Average.
Well, no, I just went, in other words, when I went to Jerry World, I went, wow.
I believe Jerry constantly quotes the Jurassic Park line, spare no expense.
Right. I sat there and went, I walked around there a lot when Penn State was out practicing. And like, holy mackerel, check this place out. I mean, it had a lot of great amenities. Now, there's certain areas where you're like, okay, this is a bit opulent, a little bit over the top. You're like, okay, do you really need this? But that's where I got the great quote that I've never forgotten from Brad Sham, who's the Cowboys play-by-play announcer. Brad did the game on Westwood 1, and we had the Cowboys booth. All right. And after, I think Roger tried to throw Brad out. I'm going, don't do it. Roger, this is actually his booth. No, I'm just kidding. Roger didn't do that. All right. Brad came in the booth. He says, "Hey, Steve, Jack, how are you?" He says, "Sorry about the angle. The angle was actually fine. We were like the goal line, but angled toward the field. And it was fine." Somebody said, "Well, he got the big screen." I never used the big screen, except on replays. I looked at it on replays, but didn't use the big screen. Didn't need to. And he said, Jerry Jones came up to him and he said, "Brad, I love you. But all those seats between the 20 and the 20, he said, all those boxes, I got to sell them to pay for the place." So that's why they're there.
It's smart logic from Jerry Jones. He's got to sell them. They'll get him better price than the one on the goal line would.
All right. Now, the question that you'd be raised on this. Okay, let's talk about number one. It's more than okay. Okay. Number one, you're allowed to say, do you need all $630 million to accomplish this, or are there certain areas where you can cut back?
Yes.
Right. That still accomplishes the same goal. That's just a legitimate question to ask.
Yeah.
And the answer may come back and says, "Look, I mean, if we do this now, we'll never have to do it again." Whatever the answer happens to be. And Pat knows exactly, because I've talked to Pat about this. I know exactly what he wants to do. I know exactly how he wants to accomplish it, and everything. And also that the genuine belief is that they can now utilize the stadium once it's done for a multitude of things, which in turn helps pay for what they're doing.
And part of it is going to be bringing back, as you said, other things, which are concerts. And the Luke Combs concert was second to none, 80,000 plus people. That is a money machine if you can do stuff like that and bring in more artists. Maybe a Taylor Swift comes and you sell it out again like you did Luke Combs.
Right.
It's a nice chunk of change.
Well, I mean, you did fine, but I don't know how many of those based on the field. Now, remember, if you walk into Beaver Stadium right now, what are you going to see?
It's the.
No, you're going to see dirt. There is no grass in Beaver Stadium right now. Okay? It's dirt. Now, they may have started doing something in there, but as of last weekend, it was all dirt because they had to tear the field out. That was planned. It was also part of the Combs contract, I'd like to point out.
Yeah.
And the the way they had it divided up, it was divvied up in such a way, and it was part of the contract that his side of it, whatever he gets, paid for the field being pulled out. And they made sure after Beer Fest was over with, got pulled out. There is something about being down on that field that I've seen when they did fantasy camp here the women's clinic,
Mm-hmm.
and the like. The emotion that people have shown me by just being down there
Mm-hmm.
is incredible. Now, I'm not saying I take it for granted. I don't, right? But Jack Ham and I have walked through that tunnel and out there for practices, scrimmages, things, not just games, but practices, scrimmages, and the like so many times.
You're almost numb to it a little bit.
Well, it's part of, in other words, it's part of the job. It's always special to go in there. I always consider it special to go in there. But at the same time,
Yeah.
it's part of the job. So I'm, how about more used to it? How about that? More used to it. And then you realize that I walked through the tunnel. I got to walk on the field. Okay. That's why I bring up in the blue-white game all the time when the fans can go on the field after the game, that 20-minute period. That's the greatest marketing you can do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right? Little kids running on the field.
Running routes.
Right?
And,
pretending they're Kyle Left throwing the ball.
And there's an interception. Number 17 on the day.
Okay. But, and that's great. So, where they are right now in the meeting is, and remember, the new trustees that were voted in are not voting.
This is the old regime.
Okay, this is the current regime. I believe the new one takes over June 30th, July 1, something like that. So, for example, Matt McGloin and Carl Nassib are not part of the vote, right? And we're now at the point where I believe they're having the full meeting. So it's going to take a bit because you have a number of trustees on both sides of this issue wanting to make statements about it, get it in the record and so forth.
Yeah.
So that's where they are at this point. It has nothing to do with, I think this vote has nothing to do at all with what they want to do with it. I think it has everything to do with how much it costs. I will point out that the longer you wait on this,
The more
expensive it's going to be.
Because how much did it cost a few years ago?
It would have been about $400 million.
And how much is it now?
700.
So it went up by almost 2 times.
Yeah. So it's, and the here's the other, the financing of it. Now, I'm not going to, I'm sure there are bonds and things like that you take out on it, but there's also an interest rate that goes with it. Okay. Interest rates in the last 3.5 years have not been great, especially in the past year and a half. And anybody who's in the process of buying a house, buying a car, and so forth, okay, that's something that's there. I mean, I already know of one local project in town that got delayed because of how high the interest rates were. Because essentially what the interest rate did was it bloated the number. Now, the interest rates are a little bit lower now than when these guys were trying to do their project, but they delayed it.
Yeah.
And the interest rate had a lot to do with it. That's stuff like that gets in the way, right? And that's what you have to ask about. Like, okay, say you wait 5 years. Are there, okay, so you got to take this in a couple ways. Right? What don't you need now? Okay, well, we don't need this now.
Yeah.
Right? You could say that, but eventually we're going to need it. Well, then you have to ask the question, well, let's pick a number. $400 million now. Right? And all of a sudden, like, well, okay, we cut out the $230 million here, but, it's like, and then 5 years from now, the $230 million price tag might be an additional $400 million. Another 170 tacked onto it. So that's 5 years from now. Yeah. That's why let's use an example I've used many times: the Olympics. what is the big problem that Olympic cities have when they bid?
Is that, may I? It's the price of, let's say it was Rio de Janeiro. The price, let's say, when they're bidding, might be $1 billion, and then when they actually go to build it, it's 1.5.
That's because the bidding is done 7 years ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That's the issue. You bid it 7 years. You're trying to project what it's going to look like. So they would have done it in 2009, 10, something like that. They would have put in the bid to beat everybody else. Hey, great! Now I'm building everything in 15. And 16 to make sure I'm ready for the games, and it doesn't cost the same as 2009 and 10, and we have a cost overrun. Oh, see, and that's the issue. Los Angeles has known for a while what they're going to do, but Los Angeles bid, right? And when did Los Angeles get this? In 2020? Because they wanted to split it with Paris.
They're 2028, so they got it in, I believe, 2020, 2021. It's usually 8-ish years ahead of time.
No, well, not Brisbane. Okay, Brisbane got it, a year ago?
Yeah.
That's 9 years ahead. Well, what is it going to cost in 9 years to build Olympic facilities in Brisbane? 9 years? Yeah. Really? I mean, there's no way you can project $2023 into 2032 Olympic Games. Right? There's no way you can possibly accurately do that. So now let's get back to the $700 million. Right? The idea is take care of it all now. Okay? Take the big swing. And that's what the idea happens to be. And that's what this, instead of okay, let's do this, instead of piecemealing it, right? And take care of what you need to take care of now. Since you've got the construction crew there, get it done. And I think that's part of what's going on.
Yeah.
And Beaver Stadium has, 2 escalators right now? And again, by going to 12,
yeah,
look,
it'll help.
Well, it helps tremendously because again, in and out. What is the best way what can I do to make sure that any inconvenience my fans have, it is as little as possible? As I've said so many times, one of the obligations that you have to, quote, the fans of, I don't care what sport it happens to be, I don't care if it's a concert, whatever it is to make sure you make the process as easy as possible.
Yeah.
Right? Everything from traffic to parking to entrance to bathrooms to concessions to finding your seat, getting to your seat, your ability to leave your seat. Do you need ADA help? Whatever it may be. Okay? Long lines at concessions? No. Long lines at bathrooms? No. Okay, you eliminate long lines by having more stations. Right? You eliminate long lines by having more bathrooms. So there are certain basics that go in here. The winterization part is already started. But you have to make sure that the experience of it, take out the winning and losing. You can't control that. And this is not about recruiting. Recruiting benefits from it. You bring in and go, holy man, look, I can't wait to play in this place.
But you bring them in already, and then it does the same thing.
Right. It may do more moving forward. So where are they on the money part of it? All right. So let's talk about the money part of it.
Yes.
Okay. There is always a misconception, and one of the board members has brought this up, and I've talked to him about it a little bit. All right. And he said, he says about money, athletics taking money from the university, whatever. It's autonomous. That's all right. But it doesn't mean that when you do something like this, it's got to be backed up somewhere. All right. Got that part. But I said, what do you mean? They said, the university takes money from athletics. Oh, they don't. I said, yeah, you do. The Palmer Museum of Art. which is about to open, I believe, and somebody can correct me on this, that $4 million of that came from the BTN allocation, Big Ten Network.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I would like to also point out that in the contract,
Mm-hmm.
you are allowed to do that. So they didn't do anything that was not allowed.
Mm-hmm.
But that's also money that didn't go to athletics. It went to the Palmer Museum of Art.
Mm-hmm.
Again, absolutely within, okay, everybody understands you're allowed to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm just saying that money did not go to athletics, even though athletics generated the money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Every time they put that on the basketball floor in the Jordan Center, it's $26,000.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Practice, got to pay rent. Game, got to pay the rent. Office space, Jordan Center, got to pay the rent. Right? Well, where's that money going? Well, it's going to another department in the university.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like, again, these are all things that happen. It's all part of the business of it. But don't do this generalization about, right, oh, no, they, hey, they don't take anything. I mean, for goodness sakes, I mean, how do you think the scholarships are paid for?
Yeah.
And the housing and things like that. I mean, how's that paid for? Right? Where does that go? Which department gets that?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not me saying. I'm just saying, hey, look, let's lay it all out here.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The number is a big number.
Yeah.
Right?
It's never not going to be.
I mean, it's the biggest number Penn State's ever had to come up with. No getting around it. I'll give you one more. The upper deck.
Mm-hmm.
The upper deck at Beaver Stadium, my understanding was, I'm talking about the north deck, the one that was opened in 1991. Well, suddenly interest rates hit a pretty good spot in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So they remortgaged it. They took a mortgage out of it. They remortgaged it.
Mm-hmm.
They took the savings from it, and they built the Thomas Building on campus. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Again,
yeah.
You can argue, should the money have gone to athletics? You know what I mean? So this is like, there's a little bit of a...
Give and take.
Yeah, a little, there's more give and take than people realize. Right? And I'm just telling one side of it, and that's, I'm not I'm not going to sit here and say I'm privy to what the other side's like, but that's part of being one of the people that's been here a long time.
Mm-hmm. You know things.
Okay? It's not as if, okay, I've been here. The people voting on this probably don't even know about it.
Mm-hmm.
There's several people in there probably like, oh, when did that happen? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, stuff like, there's a little bit more give and take than people realize. It's just the number. I don't know if those who vote know if there's a number they think is reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they probably could not come up with a number that is reasonable only because they didn't hire consultants and people like that to put a proposal together as a counter proposal. Right? Which makes sense. Who would do that?
Yeah.
I mean, who would do that? And so that's where you wait on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, in the end, is it going to pass? Sure, it's going. It'll pass. It's just going to be a mention of, and the other part is going to be. So let's get into other money. All right. So the basic Big Ten share number this year is $60 million, up from $46 million the year before. Okay. Now remember, the contracts with Fox, CBS, and NBC are backloaded.
Mm-hmm. It's going to get more and more and more as time goes.
It's going to increase. Now, that doesn't make up for $700 million, but it's going to increase. Next, college football playoff money is also going to increase, probably double. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it may triple per school. That number was $7 million, a little bit more than that a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
This contract's running out. The new contract, I think that number will double. The new contract is going to double up to $1.3 billion from where it is now. Maybe a little bit more, double, like 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that number is going to go up, and it's going to go up at least twofold, maybe 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now you're talking in the $14 to $20 million range.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's two. Next, the radio contract. The new contract begins May 31, June 1, whatever, is double what it was before. Double.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Not a small. For all of you think it's like, oh, my, is that a couple $1 million?
A lot of money.
Oh, contraire mode for it. Okay, if you tell me it's $2 to $3 million per year, you have no idea what you're talking about.
Missing a zero or so.
Okay, it's 8 figures.
Chunk of change
Per year.
Mm-hmm. It's a nice chunk.
It's a 15-year deal. So now so let's talk about that's the revenue part of it. Now let's get into the expense part of it. It's something that we've talked about over and over again in the last 2 weeks. They're in the process of settlement talks in the Grant House. You know, I think people think it's Eddie House. It's Grant House. He's a swimmer, or at Arizona State. House versus the NCAA. Again, if they go to trial in January, the odds of the NCAA losing are high in this, and they know it. All right, they know it.
They're used to losing. They're accustomed to it.
But just the pure antitrust case, where it is, what Brett Kavanaugh and the other Supreme Court justices wrote about the NCAA. It's not a good path.
Yeah.
And plus, Claudia Wilken is the lead judge on this, and she was the lead judge on 2 other cases, on Alston and O'Bannon, which the NCAA both lost. Now, I'm not saying she's prejudiced toward them, but going before the same judge with essentially the same kind of issues, right, tells you where you are. So they know it's in their best interest to settle, because if they don't settle and they lose in the January 2025 trial, which would go into February 2025, any judgment, okay, we'll pick a number, $100 billion, okay, is going to be $300 billion because antitrust losses are trebled. Oh, okay. So now the desire is to settle. In the settlement talks, they have talked about revenue at 22% or $20 million being allocated for student athletes, whichever is the lower number. And that is something that there's no athletic director in the country in their 3 to 5 year budget projections has in there. Now, have they all started figuring it, right? When this news came out, okay, how do we make it work, right? But that's going to be an expense that's going to be an every year expense moving forward that was not in there before. Now, I don't know if this means there are a couple of questions that come into play that we don't know what it means with Title IX because that has to figure into it. But but it's just the allocation of how the $20 million happens to be. And also, in your scholarship, you have cost of attendance in your scholarship. Well, with this $20 million, does that go away? Because if it does, that will then knock at Penn State. That could knock as much as $2 to $3 million off the books to then allocate to this. Which then again, I now go to sponsorships, which I've talked about before. You have to find additional revenue sources to do this. And the NCAA, if you're going to run the operation like this, you have to free up as many of those resources as possible to do it the way that the pros do. Right? Because you're now dealing with, for the most part, a professional model here moving forward. That's just the way it is, which means you have to develop a professional attitude toward it and the money that goes with it, which means you have to put certain things aside. Now, I'm not saying you put on the helmet, hey, GE. No, you don't, that's not, no, you're not going to, that's not going to happen. That's why I give the NBA credit. The NBA, except for Love's truck stops, okay, which is the Oklahoma City one with the big yellow heart and the whole thing. Most of them are just like there.
A little patch.
I can see Crypto.com, Vistaprint, right? And so StubHub, things like that, whatever it happens to be, right? You'll see that in the NBA playoffs, and you see that with the Stanley Cup playoffs. Oh, and by the way, the New York Yankees have a patch on the sleeve, right? Because that's where they're trying to get revenue wherever they can do it. Part of this renovation at Beaver Stadium is a bigger video ribbon board. Well, that's where advertisements are going to go.
Like people, I don't think it because it's become so accustomed for people to have these soccer jerseys, probably the better selling jerseys in the world. There is a major sponsor right in the center of it for Arsenal, my team. Fly Emirates, right across the center of the chest.
Right.
On the right patch, it's like Visit Rwanda, I think. On the left patch, it's something else. Like, they have sponsors pretty much everywhere. NASCAR, their entire car is sponsored.
Well, yeah, okay. So,
but that's the point. Is like, there's going to be sponsors that are going to end up coming in.
So NASCAR, you do what you have to do. I have, okay, all right, and we're all used to seeing it, but it's ridiculous. Right? I don't know. I don't know how you pick out. It's one thing to sponsor the car. Okay, how about that? And I mean, right. But for example, let's take Premier League soccer. I'll see Emirates on the front of the jersey. I have to look up in the corner to know which team. Okay, because I'm not going to sit here and like. I mean, I know who Liverpool is and Arsenal is and Man U and Man City. Now I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know what Nottingham Forest looks like.
Hey, don't diss the Forests.
No, because I just don't. Yeah. Right, or Crystal Palace or whatever it may be. But you can't tell by looking at the jersey, unless you're a real fan of it, who the team is. I've always found that to be interesting. I don't know who the team is. All right? Hey, fly Emirates. I'm like, okay. Is that Emirates is what, Liverpool or Arsenal?
Emirates is a lot of teams, but very famously for me and my friend group, back, I believe this was high school. My friend was trying to figure out what to buy me for my birthday, for my 18th birthday. And she knew I loved Arsenal, but she didn't know the team name. She just thought the team name was the Emirates, the Fly Emirates.
Right.
And she looked up Fly Emirates jerseys and then bought a shirt of a team that was Fly Emirates.
But she was like,
Arsenal. That's it. It was not Arsenal. It was a team that was in, I think, the German second division that she bought a jersey for. And she's like, this is the Fly Emirates. And they just had a different design. I was like, no.
Right.
No.
But I'm saying, in European soccer, whether it's the
you have every league,
where it's La Liga, the Premier League, whatever, right? If you are a casual fan, which makes the difference between a good rating and a great rating, is a casual fan, right?
Yeah.
The casual fan needs an education about who they are. Like, okay.
Like, if you look at
Fly Emirates, okay, and what's that team?
Like right now, one of those popular selling jerseys in the U.S., Wrexham. Who's in the front of their jersey?
Right.
TikTok.
Right. Exactly. And that's because of Ryan Reynolds being one of the co-owners of the team and in the TV series. Or was it Netflix or whatever?
Welcome Wrexham's FX.
FX. Okay. All right. So that's not what's going to happen with college sports. College sports, in all likelihood, should they be allowed to do it, they should vote on this tomorrow because they all know they're going to need the revenue.
Oh, yeah.
In some form. Anything helps at this point. Is that it'll be something that people see on TV, which is the only reason you're doing it.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, you can see them in the bookstore. Hey, great. Hey, all right. Right. But the reason is the TV exposure. And it's going to it would be subtle. The idea of being tastefully done, which I think the NBA to its credit, talk about tastefully done, very much so.
Can you tell me who's on the Knicks kit? Squarespace. But you wouldn't know that because their logo is like sewn in like a patch and it's pressed in. You can't tell.
Right. But it's there.
Mm-hmm.
It's there, and it's also on the merchandise that they sell at the, of which they're all on discount right now.
Oh God. But the point is, like, you don't notice those. You don't. Like, when the Nike logo got added to jerseys, I forget what sport it was. It may have been college football, it may have been NFL.
You talking about the Nike swoosh?
Yeah.
Here it was
a travesty.
It was just, it was sickening to people.
But it's just like, what? Like, I understood the whole, but the jersey looked so great without it. They're making the jersey. Let them do that. It's not like it's the craziest thing in the world either. It's like, what?
Who do you think provides the jerseys and the shoes?
Uh-huh.
Right? Would you like to have them buy them?
Uh-huh. Made no sense. I was like, I understand them adding their logo on. It's logical. It's very logical. But everyone freaked out when it happened. Right. And they're going to cause an uproar when this happens, but it's going to. Right. Spoiler.
So this is where we are. And again, we talked, I know, okay, talking about games is fun.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I think a lot of people who have talked to me have known that over the years, I take this time of the year and I do a lot of pre-work on all the football and basketball games I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. So this morning, for example, and I do them in chronological order. Now, basketball, I updated everything, I'll add in whomever else is on the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But I'm on the football part right now, and I'm up to game number 9, which is Washington.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather talk about that. Hey, Will Rogers at quarterback, transfer from Mississippi State, and what he did there, blah, 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 blah. What can he mean? Jed Fish, they're going to play a 4-2-5 defense. Okay. Right. I'd rather talk about that. Right. But the bottom line is none of this exists without the money part of it. And you now have, this is one of the really wild stories of the day, is the quarterback who had committed to Florida.
Oh, is that, saw this?
Shoot. No. Rashid, remember he committed to Florida as like a $13 million NIL deal or some crazy number like that.
Yeah, Jaden Rashada sues Billy Napier, Florida booster.
Yeah. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And he ended up going to Arizona State, which is where his dad went.
Mm-hmm.
And he's suing. Right? He's suing Billy Napier along with a big-time Gator booster and others, claiming they defrauded him out of millions of dollars for backing out of a promised $13.85 million agreement after the quarterback turned down offers tied to other programs.
Mm-hmm.
So the lawsuit filed today includes an allegation that Rashada signed his national letter of intent on December 21st, 2022, less than an hour after Napier promised the family's father $1 million in partial payments that day upon signing. Rashada never received the $1 million, and boosters never fulfilled the deal, according to the lawsuit.
Which is, it's big.
But the key is going to be, was there a signed agreement?
Mm-hmm. Or was it verbal?
All right. Now, the only signed agreement may be the letter of intent.
Mm-hmm.
But is there language in the letter of intent? Of course there is not language in the letter of intent. There's no language in that letter of intent about money because they can't put it in there.
Yeah.
The question is whether he signed something. Rashada is the first known college athlete to sue his coach or to sue a coach or booster due to a dispute of name, image, and likeness deals.
Mm-hmm.
His case was filed in the Northern District of Florida. All right. It's a mixture of state laws and involving NCAA guidance dictates roles that coaches, schools, and donor groups, known as collectives, are allowed to participate in facilitating deals.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The lawsuit states, sadly, unethical and illegal tactics. Oh my goodness, sounds like one of our staff meetings.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kidding. like this are more and more commonplace in the Wild West that is today's college football landscape. The lawsuit goes on to state, as the first scholar athlete to take a stand against such egregious behavior by adults who should know better, Jaden seeks to hold defendants accountable for their actions and to expose the unchecked abuse of power they have shamelessly wielded. By signing with Florida, Rashada turned away from a prior commitment to the University of Miami and a promise of $9.5 million, according to the lawsuit.
And if I may, going down further,
that would
in the
be
story,
John Ruiz.
Yes, Rashada made the commitment to Miami for the 9.5 as a verbal, and then Florida pressure campaign came back with an offer of 13.85 over 4 years, 5.35 from one person, including a $500,000 signing bonus through a company, and the remaining was going to be paid off through an NIL collective called Gator Guard. Right. And then it would expand, and he'd get a certain amount monthly as a freshman, and then sophomore and junior, and then his senior year as well, as long as he did promotional and social media obligations while in Gainesville. So he was going to get $13.85 million, and he got none of it when he signed, and he was promised at least $500,000 off the bat.
Okay. Promised and signing are two different things. Now, Hugh Hathcock is the guy that is named in the suit. In the auto dealership Velocity Automotive. I think you bought 4 of your cars from him.
Jeez. How rich do you think I am, Steve?
Tip of the iceberg.
Sure.
For you, no big deal. Hathcock approached Rashada when Rashada visited Florida in June of 22 and said that he would get the quarterback whatever he needed. Mentioned even a job for the father. Later that summer, the lawsuit states Hathcock put a dollar figure on the table, $11 million. By then, Rashada had made a verbal commitment, as you mentioned, to Miami. And, of course, we all know that John Ruiz is the person that, for the most part, is behind the money down at Florida. At Miami, I should say. A $9.5 million NIL deal. It was widely reported. Everybody heard about it. So this is not a shock to see those numbers in there. Pressure campaign from Florida, 13.85. You mentioned how it's going to be doled out. All right. So Hathcock objected to using his company, which the lawsuit states he mentioned having plans to sell, or the collective directly funding NIL payments. He worked alongside Athletic Department Representative Castro Walker to run the money through the Gator Collective, another NIL group that had separate management, according to the filing. Later that night, Rashada went on Twitter, now known as X, to announce he is flipping from Miami to Florida. So the Athletic looked at it and reviewed a copy of the contract. So there's a copy in there. Okay? So if there's a signed contract, then he's got them dead to rights. He got him dead to rights. After the $500,000 payment, Rashada would see $250,000 monthly payments as a freshman. Yay.
Yes.
I mean, hey, if there is a signed contract, he has a winner. If there is not, he doesn't. I think this is as simple as that. What is signed? What is not signed? What does it state? Is it a firm offer? Everything laid out. But this is where we are today. This is where we are.
Yeah.
And so,
it's interesting. I mean, it's an interesting piece of this whole puzzle that we're getting to now. I also want to really fast, while we wrap up, baseball's game today in the Big Ten tournament got moved officially back to 10 p.m. tonight. And then due to thunderstorms, officially just got delayed until tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. is when they're going to kick off their tournament, and possibly a game, I believe, then on Friday, I think would be what they do, or Thursday still. I don't know. The whole schedule is changing. Thunderstorms in Omaha is
I
crazy.
talked to Mike Gambino Sunday. He's done an incredible job.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, all right. I can't begin to tell you how good a job he's done. I'm not going to get into everything he and I have talked about, right?
Yeah.
But this dude knows talent. He knows how to get the best out of talent. He is a heck of a coach. All right. They beat Maryland twice to get here.
They beat them 3 times to get here.
3 times.
They swept them.
3 times to get here.
And they had to play them Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then they said Thursday night, spoiler, tomorrow's games are getting moved into a double header on Friday. And they won both of those, one of them in extra innings. It was crazy. And so now they're playing on tomorrow, 11 a.m., the same time this show is on. They'll be playing Illinois, hopefully in Omaha, to be determined if that's the official game time or not. That's just what we're being told. So we'll find out tomorrow if that's the case, Steve. And it'll be fun to break it down. But I will not be here. Jason Lord will be here tomorrow.
Yes, and then we have interviews on Thursday, Friday, and Memorial Day.
Ooh, everything's coming up here. It's going to be fun.
I have all the interviews.
And I just want to...
Including Mark Wogenrich. I'm going to have him on the vote today.
Very nice. And by the way, really quick shout out to the $1 billion game, as it's dubbed, or the $100 million game, the championship playoff game that is coming up this Sunday in the second division of English football, because the winning team gets a $100 million payment for going up to the Premier League, which on its own finances some clubs for 2 decades. So it's very cool. Just wanted to bring that up.
Who's playing in it?
I believe it is Leeds United, and I think Southampton are playing in it, I believe.
Go Leeds, go.
Go Leeds, go.
Thank you for listening to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, a 7 Mountain Media production. Come back at 11 every weekday for analysis of the latest happening in the sports landscape. From college football to European soccer, Steve and Kyle cover it all on Sports Talk with Steve Jones.